welcome to another episode of Check Me Out. And it is Sunday morning, which is Sunday is a perfect day for baking. And so, what perfect person to have than Jordan Rondel from The Caker this morning. Welcome, Jordan.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, cool. Well, I've been a massive fan of your cake kits for a long time. In fact, we have a family birthday this afternoon, so I've just finished baking the chocolate espresso cake yesterday. So,
No
uh,
way. Oh, that's so sweet.
so yeah, we'll jump into it. I would love to talk to you a little bit about, the cake here and all of that, but also talk about the cake kits and how you went from, having this amazing, all these wonderful recipes and turning them into kits that people can take home. So should we start at the top? Tell us a little bit about the caker.
Yeah, totally. So I had been baking cakes my whole life. It's kind of the caker is kind of one of those slightly cheesy, passion, hobby turn career type stories. I grew up baking with it was actually my grandparents in France. I would go there every summer holidays and they were big, big cooks and bakers or are, sorry. And I think that's where my love for being in the kitchen and kind of, the joy of putting ingredients together and then producing this kind of miraculous whole and then getting to share it with people was born. And so as I grew up, I just baked and baked and baked. I have strong memories of like coming home from school and uni and just like not really worrying about my homework and just like all I wanted to do was bake cakes. And I loved, I think this sort of I was able to kind of push the boundaries and like break some of the rules of baking because I am completely self-taught. I didn't go to patisserie school, which, one day I might. But I think because I had that sort of creative freedom, I was really able to develop my own style. And I found a lot of pleasure in developing my own recipes and stuff like that. So at the age of 21, I decided to kind of take the plunge, take the leap, and I founded the Caker. With no real kind of plan or intention for it to blow up into a business, but it just made sense to me at the time, and that was 2010. So I guess 5 years in, I'm baking solidly. Like things took off quite quickly. It became my full-time job like almost overnight, because at the time in Auckland where it started, there was a huge gap in the market for homemade style cakes, like that used good ingredients and that focused on taste over aesthetics. And so I waltzed in with this new style and everyone just lapped it up. And also because of who I was and sort of the connections I had, I was able to kind of market it to the right people, and it just blew up quite quickly. And it became my gig. And then I was, doing that steadily for 5 years until my sister Anouk joined me. At which point we were like, this is actually a really good business. It's profitable and people love it. But we're only sort of servicing this circumference around us in Auckland City.
Yeah.
So let's expand and let's develop some cake kits, and so that more people around, not only New Zealand, but the world can kind of experience what we're doing. And so, yeah, fast forward 13 years in now, that's sort of that's the story.
Yeah, amazing. And what was it like deciding that you could take all of this amazing, because obviously cakes are like, and like you say, you had this new thing that you had produced, and so there's a lot of IP and things like that, because it is, it's creativity and things like that. So did it feel kind of like I guess a little bit of a struggle, or did you ever kind of feel like, oh, am I giving away my secrets here when I make these cake kits? Or
Yes, that did obviously cross our minds. We were like, how is this going to affect orders of the cake kit? Of the fresh cakes, because all of a sudden there's this way cheaper version that people can make at home. But it never had an impact. If anything, it kind of boosted the fresh cake sales, because I guess that they're very different things, the cake kits, and so it made us more well known, but it didn't never detracted from sales The cake kits they do produce like a very good quality cake, but they're not, it's not the same as spending $80 on a cake that you go and pick up and it's all ready with flowers and candles and you can, present it. So yeah, they supplement each other very nicely, I think, the two.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I agree. And what was it like? So from when you decided like, right, yeah, this is a thing, we're going to make these cake kits, how long was the process until you got to market and what kind of challenges did you come across?
It was a while. It was probably two years after coming up with the concept that we went to market. Many endless challenges. I went in with this kind of like blind ambition. I've got this very in-depth knowledge of how to make a good cake. I've got my recipes very much locked down. So I thought, let's just put it in a box, and get the customer to add the wet ingredients. But it wasn't nearly as simple as that. First of all, there's shelf life issues. There's, suddenly you can't actually put, ground almonds and coconut together because they'll go rancid overnight. And we learned so much along the way that probably, having a food scientist hired in the beginning would have helped, but we didn't do that. We did do it later, but funnily enough, actually the food scientist we found, we had to teach her a lot of things because it's quite an unknown field in New Zealand, or it was at the time. So, and even just like the type of plastic that the ingredients are in, the bags, stuff like that all affects the quality of the shelf life and the length of the shelf life and the quality of the product. So there was a lot to learn. And also then another big challenge was, having to write these instructions that were going to suit everyone is a much harder thing than you'd think.
Yeah, I can imagine just being simplified, especially if your thoughts, because I know that you guys do a lot in the US as well, which is completely different set of metrics or not metrics at all.
Yes,
and, and so that must have been tricky. And also I think that's one thing is that a lot of people that a general consumer doesn't realize is what you buy in a supermarket, say a cake mix or a thing like that is vastly different to just adding flour and cocoa together. There's, like you say, to do with shelf life and what can actually go together and things like that. So it's a massive step.
Yeah, huge step. And I kind of know more about it now than I sort of care to know. Like it's the knowledge that we picked up is very, very, very vast and very deep. But and there's still challenges thrown in too, like even now. But yeah, we've got it pretty locked down at this point.
Yeah, nice, cool. And looking at the cake now and where it is, did you ever sort of have any inkling that it would get to where it is now, say 13 years later, or did you have any I guess big dreams in the beginning of it and go, oh my gosh, imagine if one day it was like this?
Yeah, I at 21, I went into it with such bright eye, bushy tail mentality. The world was my oyster. Anything was achievable. Blind ambition, and just I've never really been a business plan person. I did always sort of have them, but I noticed that they just evolved and changed almost like every quarter, and so I just kind of stopped doing them because I prefer to kind of just roll with the flow and go with the flow and kind of roll with the punches. So I guess yes, I did have a vision for something huge, but I didn't know exactly what that was, and I kind of like that about my younger self.
Yeah, I suppose there's a lot more, I guess, planning and things and that now. And have you ever kind of, I guess, along the way had people that have said to you, oh, I think you're going to need to do this to your cake kits or to your cakes or to your business, and that's kind of made you go, oh no, I know in my gut that's not for me?
Never in New Zealand, but certainly yes, since we've expanded into the States, I've had so much of that. Yeah, and nobody in New Zealand ever questioned what we're doing. But in the States, it's just such a bigger market to tackle, and there's so much more competition, and you just have to shout so loud to be heard that I have had people being like, well, you're facing this issue, this is what you need to do, or like you need to reduce your price point so that you can go into, typical grocery. And I've never closed my mind to any of these things, but you do at some point have to just listen to what's in your gut and do what feels right. So that's what I'm trying to do at the moment.
Yeah. And you say with typical grocery, and that's not something that you guys have really ever sort of focused on so much. I think it's more because, with I've had this conversation a bit with people with price point, and I think in New Zealand, a lot of people think that they need to be in foodstuffs or they need to be in Countdown to sort of make themselves, but that's not the case, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you can have a strong D2C business, you don't need that so much. We are in some select new worlds, so we have never closed off our minds to typical grocery, but it just depends if they're willing to kind of charge the price that we want people to pay, because the wholesale price has to be pretty low in order to keep it at that retail price point. So if they're willing to do that, then we're never going to say no. It's just that most grocery stores aren't willing to charge retail price. So
cool. And it comes to, I think, a bit of integrity as well, as like you say, you've always had like your recipes and your things locked down, and that's, integrity in the business and stuff like that, which really, really matters.
Yeah, that's right. I've never wanted to reduce my quality in order to make it more, accessible. Like that, I'd rather it be less accessible and better quality, even though that doesn't sound, maybe super savvy, but it's just my truth. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. What do you, in your opinion, what do you think makes a great food brand?
A great food brand. Well, I think first of all, innovation and uniqueness is key. I think it sort of has to fill some kind of gap in the market to be super successful. It has to look different, and it just has to have a point of difference, or else it's just going to get drowned out, I think.
Yeah, cool. And also, is there any sort of tips or tricks or things you might like to give to people that are just kind of starting out, and I guess particularly in your field, or in in baking and things like that, who are wanting to, even if there's some 21-year-olds out there who are coming home from school and who are just thinking about baking all the time, what tips or advice would you give to them?
One of the main ones I'd give is to just kind of start small and grow slowly, because what happened to me when I moved to the States was I need to see rapid growth. I need to make it tomorrow. And what happened was I kind of overextended myself, and you end up just kind of in a risky position. And I think that natural growth is leads to much more success. So yeah, just kind of, don't overextend yourself in the beginning. Stay fluid, stay nimble, because, as we know from something like COVID, anything can change at the drop of a hat, and you need to be able to like move quickly. And so, being nimble is, I think, a really key point. And then, just find your little gap in the market. Be unique, find a point of difference. It's absolutely fine, I think, to take inspiration from others in the beginning, but I think you need to, quite quickly progress from there into your own lane. Or else, as I said before, you just kind of get drowned out. And that's easier said than done, but it's sort of I think it's sort of the key thing to success.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, look, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I really do appreciate it. I'm sure you've got lots to do with your filming and that, so I'll let you go. But thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate it.
You, Laura. No, I had a great time. Thank you.